Dan, will you come on up real quick? Let's give it up for Dan. All right. Woo! So I met Dan. We'll put this right here like that.
Sure.
So I met Dan about 8 months ago at a Heroin Anonymous meeting over at the Little Red Church over on Van Ness, in between Shields and Clinton. And how long have you been sober, sir?
First, my name's Dan, and I am an addict and alcoholic.
What's up, Dan?
I've been sober 34 years.
Woo! All right, pretty cool. All right, so I met you over there, and you have a daughter that's in recovery. Would you like to introduce her, please?
My daughter is Grace.
Grace. Come on up, Grace. All right. There you go. So Grace, no, come over here, Grace. Grace, how long have you been sober?
I have been sober a little over 5 months.
Yeah. All right. Grace went to Touchstone.
I did.
You coined out a Touchstone. You coined out over there. Your home group, I believe, is over at North Park Recovery. Okay. And then that's where you met your sponsor.
Yes, my sponsor.
And then who is your sponsor?
My sponsor is Ashley.
Ashley, come on up. All right, so now we have Ashley. All right, here we go. Her sponsor, his daughter. Okay, sponsor. Okay, so Ashley, how long have you been sober?
1,269 days.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. She can hit a softball too. All right. Okay, so your home over here is North Park as well. Okay,
Yep.
and then who is your sponsor?
My sponsor is Sue.
Sue. Everybody knows Sue. All right. So father, daughter, sponsor, net sponsor. Okay, and your name?
My name is Sue.
Let's give it up for Sue. Yes, Sue. All right. And Sue, how long have you been sober?
17 years.
17 years. And your home, it was over here at North Park as well. Very cool. And do you have a sponsor?
My sponsor is
Jill Hanson. Let's give it up for Jill. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Here, you know what? Do you have your camera? We'll take a picture after. Let's give it up for Jill one more time. Thank you, everybody. All right, Jill. Jill, how would you like to open up?
Hi, everybody. Whew. I like being on the other side of this. Okay, echo. I want to thank y'all for being here, first of all. That's amazing. Hundreds of years of recovery. So I want to start off with something that's traditional to AA. And I want to encourage you all to say it with me. It's the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Amen. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and just jump right into it, Jill. All right, I'm looking at the clock here. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the bad years, right into the beginning of the chaos, right? So you're 19 years old, and you are working over at Fashion Fair, and you decide you're going to go. Oh, there we go. Wow. And you're going to start drinking, right?
Yep.
And you found yourself drinking at a bar alone. You want to tell us about that?
So I worked at places that sold parachute pants and Michael Jackson jackets. But the bartenders would come in and buy all their clothes from me, and they asked me to come and have a drink after work. And I told them I was 19, and they said, doesn't matter, come on in. So I went to a place called the Refectory. Does anybody know of the Refectory? Okay, I'm really old. It has since been burned down, and I swear to God I didn't do it. So I started going there when I was 19 years old, and I remember my father, when I was 21, he took me up to the bar, a big, beautiful bar with the brass and the dark wood, and he said, "I'm going to buy you your first drink." And the bartender turned around and said, "Jill, do you want your regular?" And I was like, oh. So, yep.
So you are drinking. Looking back now, were you powerless to alcohol?
It was never normal for me.
Right.
I mean, I was that kid that would drink the chocolate liqueur cups and finish off the whole box. And I used to say it was because I like chocolate, but it was that burn right away when I was a kid. But I started drinking with a purpose right away, the very first time.
Were you drinking and driving?
Yes, but I partied with sheriff's officers, so I never got a ticket.
Right, right. And then you also got alcohol poisoning, right?
Yeah, so I progressed very fast. By the time I was 21, I was working in a bar called TGI Fridays, and frequently drinking after work, during work, throwing up in the garbage can right in the back while I was serving food. Sorry, anybody that I serve food to. But I was powerless right away. I soon wanted to die.
Was alcohol the only thing you were doing?
It soon became cocaine also. And cocaine was the means to continue the alcohol. So if I could get the right concoction, I could go all night. And well into the next day sometimes. But alcohol was my primary, and then cocaine. I never did anything normally. Always some is good, more is better.
So you're drinking a lot, you're in college, then something happens in your life. It's pretty traumatizing. You want to talk about that?
So,
Share with us.
yeah, he told me to be transparent, so you guys get ready for it. So the first thing that happened was my mother died of lung cancer on Christmas Day. And soon after that, within 4 years, I had 5 people die. Another person on Christmas Day, a friend of mine, got decapitated. But it was my mother, my aunt, my uncle, my father, all within that short amount of time. And do you want me to tell you about the other part?
Yeah.
During that time, I was also raped. And my rapist did a second attack, tried to knock me out, and then stalked me for 3 years. So by that time, I was well on a journey of trying to not wake up. Doing my best to not wake up. Spending hours, sometimes a day, in a bathtub, praying to God that I would slip under the water and stop breathing. Waking up with it freezing. Doing the drain and starting all over again and saying I didn't get it right this time.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Did you have a relationship with God at this point?
Always.
Always.
You know, the thing that I want to tell people more than anything to bring the church and recovery together, and I got to say this, I'm going to do a shout out to my pastors really quick. Floyd and Joe and Ryan and Josh, you guys are all part of my journey. You've made it okay to be in recovery and be in a church. You let me know that I could walk in as I was and not be judged. And I thank you guys for every bit of it. When you asked me, you said something, Ryan said, "Welcome home." And I'm truly home there. So with that,
So you are, at this point, you've lost some people in your lives, and then you have a therapist, and she tells you what?
well, and let me back up just really quick. During that time also, I was a little sister in a fraternity during the stockings and everything. And I had alcohol poisoning
Right.
so bad that they found me face down in the mud convulsing in between two fraternities. And they didn't know if I was going to make it through the night there. I shattered my tailbone in a drunken stupor. I can't tell you how many injuries I had during the time. And I didn't care. All I cared about was, why did I wake up from this? Right. You know? And one time, I remember praying to find somebody that would be okay having me stay alive. Like one person that would want me there that day. And there were days I couldn't find anybody. Oh. And I remember one day calling up a friend and I said, please give me a reason. Give me some reason to stay alive today. And she came over and talked with me, but that was a Band-Aid on it. You know, so I had a therapist during this time, and her name was Lorna. She's my daughter's godmother. And she told me I was going to be dead in a year if I didn't get sober. Yeah. So I went to AA to shut her up. I'll be honest with you. I got my first 30 days because I didn't want to say my name
And where
anymore.
was that meeting at?
That was Tuesday Women's Happy Hour. It was over on Palm and Shaw. There was a bunch of motorcycle women. I think there's a couple in the audience that would come and roll their Harleys up. And I thought, I am home. You know, these women are my peeps. And I remember at that time, I didn't know at the time, but it was my sponsor's daughter was there with her kids. And I thought, they're happy. I can't imagine being a mother. I can't imagine making somebody happy. Not with the childhood I had. Yeah. Mom was an elder in the church, singing large in charge. By noon, out of the church. By 3, drunk. By 5, hitting. By 8, passed out. That was my idea of God. So it was really warped.
And this is, okay, at a time where it's kind of a mix of things. We've lost some people in our lives. You're married now. You have Jenna, your daughter Jenna. And during these years, okay, we lose some people. Your therapist tells you that. And then what happens to Lorna?
So my daughter was about 7 months old. And it was around Christmas time again. And nobody could get in touch with her. We were all calling her, and she lived up in Yosemite Lakes. And so we decided to go up there and find her. And her two dogs were out front, and they were running around. But before we got to the front door, we knew something was wrong. We could smell something wrong. And she had passed away several days before. Her body was decayed. And my husband found her and lovingly covered her up and told me to get my daughter out of there.
So now it's, is this the moment where you start to take your sobriety a little bit more serious? Is this the moment right here?
It was the divine intervention. That night I used to talk to Lorna about angels, and she'd say, well, maybe an angel would talk to you. And I said, oh, no, if they talk to me, I'd shit myself or something.
It happens.
And she goes, well, that's exactly why they're not talking to you. And that night, all I can say is if anybody has experienced a death like that, the smell, you can't scrub it off of you. You can't wash enough. And I remember that night going to sleep with the TV on, and I could see this, I can't believe I'm saying this, I can see this commercial. And it was a family, it was during the holiday, so a family eating a holiday dinner. And I heard this woman's voice singing, "Oh, Holy Night." And I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's not coming from the TV. And I sat there up in bed, and I was looking around, and I go, where's that coming from? And it was coming from my baby monitor. And it was a woman's voice singing, "Oh, Holy Night." And I listened to it, and I saw the difference between the two. And then when it finished, I got up and I went to my daughter, and she was awake, and I said, "Did Aunt Lorna visit you?" And she had a big smile on her face. And I really do believe that that was a time that God was telling me, if you depend on one person or one thing in this world, they're going to fail you or they're going to die. But if you depend on me, I won't fail you.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. So you're working the program. You decide that this is the moment that you are going to take sobriety as hard as you can. We realize that sobriety isn't always rainbows and unicorns. That like all marriages in the world, we have these strongholds, whether it's finances, anger, control. Relationships are not perfect. So you and Eric decide to do something really cool, something rad. You choose forgiveness over resentments, and you decide to make God the center of your relationship. Tell us what you guys decided to do to move forward.
So we, at 5 years sober, we're going to get divorced because we were on two separate journeys in our recovery. And long story short, Mitch Rivera, who's another amazing pastor, helped us through that journey. And at one point, I remember Eric kept on asking me, are you going to stay with me? Are you going to stay with me? And I said, I'm just along for the ride. I want to see what God does with you. I also remember when I said, what do you want? And he said, I want what they have. And he pointed across the street at my neighbor's husband. And I said, what does he have that you want? And he said, he's got God and his family. And I said, then go get it. Then at 15 years of our marriage, we decided to get remarried out on the beach at Corona del Mar at sunset with the waves, barefoot. Our dog was part of the wedding. Had cracked crab and butter and cheesecake afterwards. It was perfect. So,
Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. All right, so life is great, and here we go again, right? Everything's going great. Now cancer comes. So tell us about that.
so
The first of two.
So I had this itch in my throat and went to a doctor, and they did an x-ray and didn't find anything, and then they did a CAT scan, and she called me up and she said, I think we found something. And she said, I think it's lung cancer. And I remember the drive home. I had planned out everything. I had planned out the songs at the funeral, the prayers, who was going to smile and who was going to cry. I planned out who was going to marry my husband. She was very pretty, by the way. Who was going to raise my daughter, because my daughter was 14 years old. Mind you, I had lost my mother when I was 22, so I saw myself even earlier on my path to saying goodbye to my daughter than what my mother was. And can I say this part?
Yeah.
I don't know if...
Yeah, absolutely, please.
So, well, first of all, I went to a meeting, because that's what I knew to do. Tuesday noon Sierra Fellowship. And I leaned on my sponsor's shoulder and I said, I've got lung cancer and I think I'm going to die and not see my daughter graduate from high school. She said, you need to share. So I shared, and a woman came up to me afterwards and she said, I've got lung cancer too and I'm surviving. Let's talk. She's still alive and I'm still alive. But more than anything, I shared that is because when you go into the rooms of AA, or if you go into a church, you think that all your problems are going to dissolve. That's not the truth. The truth is that if you see some people transparent like me, then you get a shred of hope. And that's what I want to give today, is a shred of hope. Give what was given to me. And so I found out about the lung cancer. I had lung surgery, 2 lung surgeries in 2 days. They cut out 10% of my lung on the right side. Then they did radiation. I finished radiation about 2 days before Christmas. And I remember my throat was so burned I couldn't eat for months. And then they said they got it. And then 4 years later, 2020, it came back. And it came back with a vengeance.
Before we were asking God why, right?
I was asking God why, that's right. I was asking God why. And I remember crying. I was driving down Shepherd Avenue, and I was crying, not the pretty crying, not the, but the snot running down my face. And I cried out to God. I said, God, why me? I did everything you wanted. I got sober. Why me? Why? I did what you wanted. And his answer was, why not you? Your days are perfectly numbered in my eyes, and you don't need to know them anymore. All you need to do is wake up and worship. And then I turned on the radio.
Right.
And this song came on the radio. And this song is, I'm going to try to get through this. The song is The Voice of Truth by Casting Crowns. And it says, oh, what I would do to have the kind of faith it takes to climb out of this boat I'm in, onto the crashing waves, to step out of my comfort zone into the realm of the unknown where Jesus is, and he's holding out his hand. But the waves are calling out my name, and they laugh at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. The waves, they keep on telling me time and time again, I'm going to say, girl, you'll never win. You'll never win. But the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth tells me, do not be afraid. The voice of truth says, this is to your glory. I choose to listen and believe the voice of truth.
What happened when you heard that?
There was a calmness over me. It's a fallacy that we have tomorrow. God doesn't have it planned for me to look towards tomorrow. I get the blessing, they talk about one day at a time in recovery. I get to live one day at a time, not in a bad way, in a truly extraordinary way. I'm just going to do a shout out.
Please.
I get to go to work every day to a place that I love, with people that I love, working for people that I love. Who all here is from my time? Woo! You guys are a blessing for me. All my peers, all the clients. But if that was my last day, there'd be no other place.
And there's scripture. I think, Paul, you have it up there, Paul? There it is.
So this scripture, I'm going to show this. I take this to every infusion. In fact, I have an infusion at the end of the month that I'll be taking it to, because my cancer doesn't go away. I get to live today. And on the sides of it is this Bible verse, and then it says F cancer on the back. So it's 2 Timothy verse 1:7. For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. God doesn't want me to live in fear, and he doesn't want to let me live drunk and high. He doesn't want me to be face down in the mud. I choose today to listen to what God has planned for me, which is to stay alive and to stay sober and to stay with you all and to be as transparent as possible in hopes that it would give somebody a shred of hope.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about purpose, passion, and gratitude. Let's talk recovery. So you currently work at My Time, which we just talked about. Give it up to My Time. How long have you been there at My Time?
I've been there 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
Yeah. And what exactly do you do at My Time?
Okay, this is the picture from a recovery summit, by the way. But I am a recovery coach. I do basically discharge planning. So I get to help people find sponsors.
Are there any of those clients here today?
I don't know if anybody wants to out themselves, y'all can, but
There they are.
yeah, woo! Woo!
So what is your favorite thing about the recovery world?
My favorite thing about the recovery world is that we don't have to do this alone. Never, ever. I love sitting there. I always think of it being generational sin and generational success. To see somebody get their children back, get their marriages back, get their family back in some way or another, go back to school, start to realize that they can be a success. See people renewed like I got to see with you.
Because of people like you. Sure. Because of people like you, Jill. So let me ask you this. What's the hardest thing about recovery?
The funerals. Seeing the loved ones say goodbye and not understand why. Seeing the kids say goodbye. Yeah, that's the hardest part.
It's pretty hard, you know. I think if you're in this room today, you know people that have disappeared, or you know people that have passed. So yeah, I would say that's definitely the hardest thing.
We've been to a lot of funerals
Been to
recently.
funerals, and yeah, it's definitely hard. All right, let's talk about some of the recovery fellowships at First Street Church. Let's talk about, man, that's a good-looking guy there in the center. Isn't he? So let's see here. So I remember we were at the Red Church, got packed over there, so we decided. Our fearless leader, Steve, says, you know, I think we got a spot over at First Street Church where we can start another Heroin Anonymous meeting. And we started over there. And now, tell us what's going on over there during the week.
Well, during the week, we have several recovery meetings. We have HA. Do we have HA in the house? Woo! We have CA. Do we have CA in the house?
Yeah, look at
Woo!
this.
And we just got the first in the world
First.
FA. FA people.
Heck yeah. And then there's also, is there still AA over there during the week as well? Or?
The AA is not there right now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just those three right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And you attend all of those.
I do.
You attend all of those.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to say real quick that I truly believe that Jill's purpose is to guide others to find their purpose, their passion, their gratitude. So I'd like to talk about your ministry and the recovery summits. And
That's
how
pretty
did
good
the
faces.
recovery summits come about? Tell us about them.
The recovery summit came about when I was asking God why I was still alive. During the time that I got cancer, I had several friends that passed away from cancer. And I didn't understand why I was still here. Like, my mother died of lung cancer. I know that it kills. Why am I the one that survives right now? And God revealed to me something that I thought was crazy, by the way, and I argued with God profusely. But he said, you're going to get all these recovery programs under one roof at one time, and by the way, you're going to worship me. And I'm like, yeah, but not everybody's a Christian. He goes, no, you seem to be complicating things, Jill, like you always do. And he said, you're going to open up the door and you're going to pour the coffee. And that's it. Let me do what I do. So I get these wonderful speakers that I got to say, okay, so Brian rocked it as a speaker last year.
Thanks, Jill.
And I don't know if I can do this, but I know I'm going to totally put him on the spot.
Go
but
ahead.
I've done
It's
this
your
to you
day.
guys
It's your night.
before. Can I have all past speakers stand up?
There we go. All right.
Woo!
That's a rowdy bunch back there. Rowdy bunch.
And that's because they said yes to being transparent too, all because we want one less coffin and one more person alive and with their family.
And it first started, where did it first start? What church did you have it at?
It started at New Harvest Church,
New Harvest.
and there was about 12 different facilities and 20 people in the audience. And last year we had 36 different facilities and 400 people in the audience.
Very cool. Very cool. And then this year, it's, what's the date this year?
It'll, well, we haven't finalized it yet. I've got a couple of my speakers that already said yes, though.
But do we have a
But
date?
I'm not going to say yet.
Do we have a date?
We have probably the
month?
second weekend, the second Saturday in September. So it'll be during Recovery Month.
Awesome.
And yeah, so it'll be just save the date, second Saturday in September.
And how has this recovery summit, how has it changed your life?
You know, it's interesting because, like I said, I don't know how much time I get to have on this, and it doesn't matter. But this recovery summit has taken on its own form that has nothing to do with me. I literally open up the door and still pour the coffee. And that's what I like. This is hard to do, this part of it, by the way. I give you guys a lot of credit. So, but I've had some amazing people here with me along the way. And
A lot of friends, a lot of family.
lot of amazing people that have been called, like Jamie. Like I don't know if she's here tonight, but Jamie was amazing. She said, I want in. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't pay you. And she goes, doesn't matter, I'm being called too. So, and it's been one person after another after another.
Very cool. Is there anything you'd like to finish up saying? Is there anything on your mind? Anything about recovery? Anything? Actually, this July, you'll have how many years?
I'll have 24 years.
24 years. And where are you at right now with the cancer?
So I go back for treatment in 2 weeks, and I do treatment every 6 months, and then they do PET scans I think I graduated to 6 months now. So right now the cell tissue is considered not live, so it's still, they can see it there, but it's not considered live cancer cells. So for today, I'm cancer free.
Very cool. Okay, we only have a couple more minutes, but I promised some people that we would do this tonight. We got to bring up 4 or 5 people that
Yeah.
were able to, we were mapping out, that were part of, generations of sponsees and sponsors. Where is Ashley at? Ashley, you want to come up here and help us map out the rest of this, see if we can pull it off?
Do we have the rest are we going to map out the rest of my
We're gonna just try
sponsees
to
too?
we're going to try to in the next couple of minutes. We're going to see what we can pull off here.
Okay, let me
And then we're
find-
going to ask somebody, Eric, do you have your phone with you?
I
That
got
way-
a sober fan.
There we
notes
go.
on my phone.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so the low number of women in our sober family is around 58.
Whoa.
That's not counting Carol's sponsor and
Yeah.
everyone that they sponsor. So it goes Grace.
Come on up, Grace.
Come on.
See if we can get a big picture.
And Marlissa, I don't know if you made it tonight. I don't think she made it. She's my other sponsee. And then Sue.
Sue.
Yeah, so Grace to me to Sue. I have 2 sponsees. Sue has 8 sponsees
Whoa.
who also have sponsees.
Whoa.
Jill has 8 sponsees who have 11 sponsees total of their own.
Are there any other sponsees of Jill here?
Any other
Come
sponsees
on
that,
up. Come on up.
whoever
Let's
wants to
go.
come up?
There we go. Look at Jill. Jill created some chaos.
And at the mug the other night, I tricked Jill into getting this information. She didn't know this was what it was for.
Picture. Yeah.
But I was like, hey, so, yeah, and then,
All the girls.
Yeah, that's right.
so where'd I leave off? Jill has 8 sponsees, who have 11 sponsees total. And then Jill's sponsor is Sharon, who has 9 sponsees of her own. And we're
Some of
guessing
those are here.
any of
Come on
Sharon's
up.
sponsees.
Come
There we
on up,
go.
the ones that are Sharon sponsees. I think we have at least one. That's okay, that's okay.
And then a rough estimate is that Sharon's sponsees have, if I can do the math, 17 sponsees of their own,
Yep.
which have sponsees and sponsees. And then Sharon's sponsor is Carol, and she has 2 sponsees. And I think Carol's sponsor,
I think she has, I don't know how many.
but
So
Carol
honestly,
has a sponsor
Carol
as well.
has a
So we
sponsor.
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 generations
wow.
in our family.
Want to get in there and take a picture? Yeah, I'm going to stand
Do
there.
it.
A lone wolf here. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. All right. All right, I'm going to have you guys stay up here real quick. And we have one more thing for Jill here. Before we end this thing, Jill, on behalf of everyone here, we got you something. We all pitched in, and we wanted to give you something. The Recovery Community of Fresno recognizes Jill Hanson for her purpose, passion, and gratitude. We honor her hard work, dedication, and care for all those within the recovery community and beyond. Presented Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, and her sobriety date, July 18th, 2000. Faith without works is dead. Can you take us out in the Lord's Prayer? There you go. Lord's Prayer. We're going to finish out with the Lord's Prayer.
All right, the Lord's Prayer. Who keeps us sober? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Keep coming back, it works.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Wow.
Love you.
I love you too.